Nobody in Ogudu ever trusted the police, the politicians, or even the local prophet with the big mouth and three wives. But for some strange reason, everybody trusted Mr. Ayola, the bank manager. Maybe it was his neat suit, maybe it was the way he smiled like he already forgave your overdraft, or maybe it was just because he spoke good English and smelled like imported soap. Every Sunday after church, Ayola would stand by his black Toyota Corolla, arms crossed and sunglasses on, greeting people like a king waving to peasants. The women called him responsible, the men said he had sense. Nobody asked how he got his job. Nobody knew where he came from. All they knew was that when Ayola said, "Bring your money and save with us at Iris Bank," people believed. The first to open an account was Mama Dupe, the pepper seller at the junction. She handed over 50,000 naira, her entire savings in a white envelope wrapped in nylon, with her thumbprint on a black form she didn't read. Ayola smiled, patted her shoulder like a proud son, and said, "You are now part of a bank that understands the people." By the end of the month, the whole street had joined. Boda Sheyi, the mechanic, moved all his customer deposits to Aris Bank. Chidima, the hairdresser, convinced her saloon girls to save 10% of their weekly income. Even Pastor Fabamila moved the church building fund 700,000 naira into an Aris fixed deposit account. "It's time the house of God works with professionals," he told the congregation. They clapped. Ayola nodded modestly from the front row. Before he became a branch manager, Ayola was just another banker with a plastic ID card and dust on his shoes. But unlike the others, he didn't sit behind a desk waiting for customers. He went out and brought them in. Market women, Okada riders, tailors, school teachers. Ayola spoke their language. He made banking sound like a favor, like you were doing yourself a disservice by not joining. He would sit with men at beer parlors after hours, hold small meetings in barber shops, even kneel beside elders in their home just to explain why Aris Bank was different. Not better, but different. The kind of difference that made people whisper. This one had sense when he walked away. Some years later, his name started ringing in the regional office. The big men upstairs were impressed. This year, Ayola is not just a banker, they said. He's a movement. They called him to Lagos, clapped for him in a conference room, and gave him a gold-plated pen with his name engraved on it. And just like that, Mr. Ayola became branch manager of Aris Bank Ogudu. He returned with a promotion letter in his hand and power in his chest. The community celebrated him. The council chairman called him a role model for the youth. The local radio station ran a short feature, From Grass to Grace, the Ayola story. Ayola had an old friend from university. His name was Lanre. The kind of friend you don't speak to every day, but when you do, you pick up exactly where you left off. Larry had done well for himself. He had a logistic company in Abuja and three delivery vans, land in two states, and a duplex in Gwarimpa. One evening, out of the blue, Larry called. His voice was slower than Ayola remembered. "Bro, I need your help," he said. They met the next morning at a quiet restaurant. Larry looked thinner, older. His once round face had sharpened into a tired oval. He picked up his food like someone who wasn't really hungry. "It's stomach cancer," Lanre said finally, "stage 2. They found it late last year. I've done 2 rounds of chemo already and they want to operate again." Ayola froze. He didn't know what to say. Lanre forced a laugh. "That's not why I called you. I can manage all that. What's really stressing me is my bank," he leaned in. "These people are useless. Always putting a hold on large transfers, asking for papers I already submitted. I don't have time for that right now. If something happens to me during surgery, I don't want my wife begging anybody to access my money." Then he said the words that made Ayola sit up straight. "I want to move everything, my personal and business accounts, to Aris Bank, and I want you to handle it directly." Ayola nodded slowly, already calculating. "How much are we talking about?" Larry wiped his mouth and leaned back. "About 80 million naira." Ayola didn't blink. "We will take care of it." Larry smiled, a little relief showing on his face for the first time. "You know I trust you, right?" Ayola nodded again, firmer this time. "You are in safe hands." Ayola didn't sleep that night after that meeting, not because he was scared, but because his mind was spinning. 80 million naira, just like that, in one wire transfer. It wasn't every day someone handed you a lifetime in digits, but there was one problem. Larry's expectations. He thought the money would land in an Irish corporate account with proper tracking, alerts, and all the standard banking protocols. Ayola couldn't risk that. Too many eyes and too many questions would be asked. He needed something easier, so he came up with a plan. He called Lanre the next day. Bro, I spoke to my regional director. There is a delay setting up the business account in your name. New compliance laws, just boring stuff. But I have a workaround. For now, we'll use a personal holding account. It's cleaner, quicker, and less paperwork too. It's under my supervision. Larry hesitated. A personal account? Whose name will it be in? Mine, Ayola said, but fully temporary. Once your corporate account is ready, we'll transfer everything officially. No stress. I don't want any stories, Ayola. I'm going in for surgery soon. I can't afford to be chasing money, Larry said. Ayola chuckled. You won't have to look. I have already filled most of the paperwork. Just sign the authorization form I send the funds, and you'll get a lot in a few days when the new account activates. You are covered. Lanre paused, then he sighed. All right, I trust you. That evening, Lanre sent the money, 80 million naira, to the personal Aris account Ayola had opened the week before using his cousin's name. Clean account and no red flags. Ayola sat in his office alone, staring at the alert on his phone. 80 million naira received. His hands trembled. He turned off his phone, leaned back in his chair, and for the first time in a long time, he smiled with all his teeth. Lanre's money wasn't the first, it was just the biggest. Ayola had been playing a long, quiet game, one nobody saw coming. While people in Ogudu praised his hustle and Aris Bank signed his name in boardrooms, he was operating a second job in the shadows. For months, Ayola had been leaking customer information to fraudsters. He had created a simple routine. When people came to open accounts, old women, market boys, churchgoers, Ayola scanned copies of their ID cards, signatures, BVNs, and stored them in a private folder on his laptop, naming each file with something innocent like birthday invites or soccer features. At night, he would upload those files to a secure email and send them to a man named Osas in Warri, the middleman between him and the real criminals. Once the fraudsters had the info, it was game on. SIM swaps, account cloning, unauthorized withdrawals, and every time they hit a target, Ayola got his cut, discreetly deposited into one of the 4 ghost accounts he controlled using fake identities and burner phones. Nobody ever suspected them. Why would they? He was the golden boy, the role model, the man who donated branded notebooks to the local school. If anyone complained about missing funds, Ayola would act shocked. He would call a meeting, pretend to escalate it, then quietly blame cybercrime or network breaches from Lagos. He always refunded just enough to calm things down, never the full amount, and somehow, people kept trusting him. Larry went in for surgery 2 weeks after the transfer. He didn't tell many people, just his wife, a few relatives, and Ayola. He didn't want drama, just peace. But the complications came fast. An internal bleeding, a failed transfusion. By the 3rd day, he was gone. 38 years old, dead. The news hit like a slap. His wife, Tenny, broke down on the hospital floor, clutching her son, who didn't even understand why people were crying. The boy just kept asking, "Where is daddy?" Ayola heard the news during a morning briefing. He froze in his seat, then quietly excused himself. He walked to the staff's toilet and sat on the closed lid of a toilet seat, staring at the wall, not out of grief but out of calculation. Larry was gone. The only person who knew the money was supposed to move to a new Aris account was now dead. That night, Ayola opened a bottle of whiskey, drank half of it straight, then transferred 20 million naira from the stolen funds to a separate account under another fake name. He would wait, let the dust settle, let them bury Landry. The funeral happened 3 days after. Quiet but dignified. Family flew in, colleagues came. His logistics boys wore branded t-shirts with "Forever in Our Hearts" Landry printed on the back. People gave speeches. They said he was a fighter, a family man, and the giver. Ayola was there too, in a sharp black native, dark sunglasses, and that same solemn face he used when denying loan applications. He even walked up to the coffin, bowed slightly, placed the white rose on top, and whispered, "Rest well, my brother." Weeks passed. The shock of Larry's death began to settle into a cold, dull ache in Tenny's chest. She moved like a ghost through the house, woke up, bathed her son, answered phone calls she didn't remember, thanked people she couldn't name. At night, she sat by the window and scrolled through old pictures of Larry smiling strong and alive. But grief had to make room for reality. Larry had made plans. He wasn't careless. Before the surgery, he had transferred several properties into Tenny's name, a plot in Kashi, the house in Guarimpa, shares in a transport company. He even left a voice note on her phone. If anything goes wrong, go to Ayola. He will handle the bank part. You and Junior will be fine. So one morning, still wrapped in her morning scarf, Tenny sat on the edge of her bed, picked up her phone and dialed Ayola. "Good morning, sir," she said quietly. Ayola paused when he saw her name on the screen. He cleared his throat, switched to the gentlest tone. "Tenny, it's good to hear from you. How are you holding up?" She gave a weak smile he couldn't see. "We are managing. I'm just calling about the money Landry mentioned. He said he had moved some funds, about 80 million for me and Junior. I want to come in next week to sort things out, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday." Ayola's chest tightened. He leaned back in his chair, forcing his voice to stay calm. Yes. That's no problem at all. Everything is intact. You just need to bring some documents and ID. But please, let me know the exact day you will come so I can be on ground. I want to handle it personally out of respect for Landry. Tenny exhaled, relief washing over her. "Thank you so much. I'll call you on Monday to confirm." "Perfect," Ayola said, tapping his fingers on the desk. "Don't worry, Tenny. Everything is under control." But nothing was under control. The moment the call ended, Ayola stood up, shut his office door and locked it. His heart was pounding. Tenny was coming for money that no longer existed. Money that was now in 3 different accounts, funding a lifestyle he had already started tasting. Hotel suites, expensive watches, and a secret plot of land he was negotiating in Abeokuta. And now, the widow of a dead friend was coming with her dead husband's last wishes, and no idea she was walking into a lie. Ayola wiped sweat from his forehead, sat back down and stared at the ceiling. He had 1 week to either fix it or disappear. Ayola didn't sleep that weekend. He sat in his apartment, curtains drawn, TV on but volume muted. His phone buzzed occasionally, bank messages, vendor alerts, just useless noise he called it, and he ignored them all. His mind was locked on one thing, Tenny. She was coming, and she had every right to. And when she showed up at the bank asking for money that didn't exist, everything would unravel. She would scream, she would bring her brother, her lawyer, maybe even the police, and that would be the end. Unless she never made it to the bank, he thought to himself. It was madness. But the more he thought about it, the more it started to make sense. She had no security, no backup, just grief, a toddler, and trust. Trust in him, obviously. Ayola picked up his second phone, the one with no contact. He dialed the number and waited. "Oga," the voice on the other end answered. "Meet me tonight," Ayola said. "Same place. I have a job for you." They met behind an abandoned warehouse near Ketu. 3 of them, old boys from way back. One had a scar across his chin, another smiled like weed and bad decisions. The third didn't speak, he just watched. "I need someone moved," Ayola said, his voice low. "No death unless necessary." "Who?" Scarface asked. "A woman, her name is Tenny. She'll be coming to Aries Bank next week. I want her picked up before then. You hold her for a few days and I'll handle the rest." He gave them the photograph of Tenny, just to make sure they recognize her when they see her. The men nodded. Money was discussed, half up front and half after. He told himself that this was the survival, that people do worse things every day, that she would understand. That is if she ever makes it out alive. Wednesday came like any other day. The sun hung heavy over Ogudu, the air thick with heat and restless movement. In Tenny's small sitting room, her mother-in-law fed little Junior pap while humming an old gospel song. Tenny stepped out of her room, dressed in a simple blouse and wrapper with her handbag over her shoulder. "You're not driving?" Mama Larry asked. Tenny smiled faintly. "No, Mama. It's just bank matters. I'll be back in an hour or two." She kissed her son on the cheek. "Be good for Grandma, okay?" The boy reached for her scarf. She laughed, freed herself gently, and walked out of the door. She never made it to the bank. At exactly 12:32 p.m., Tenny was in a cab, halfway down the shortcut road near Agboyi Junction, a small dusty lane people used to beat the main road traffic. That's where Ayola's boys were waiting. They had been parked in an old silver Camry since 11 a.m., engine running, eyes scanning every woman that passed. "She's coming," Scarface said, eyes on the side mirror. Same rapper, same face. The cab slowed near a pothole. That's when the driver, one of Ayola's boys, made his move. Instead of swerving left like usual, he turned sharply into a narrow alleyway that led nowhere. "Hey, where are you?" Tenny started, confusion turning into fear. Before she could finish, two men in black masks yanked open the cab's side door. One grabbed her arms, the other slammed a chloroform-soaked cloth over her mouth. She thrashed, kicked, screamed into the silence, but the street was too empty, and the only sound was the faint hum of a generator in the distance. They pulled her into the Camry, laid her flat in the back seat, and drove off. It took less than 30 seconds. By 12:40 p.m., the cab had disappeared. The alleyway was quiet again, and Tenny was gone. Just like that. They took her to a small, uncompleted building near a swampy area in Ikorodu. One of those places even Google Maps wouldn't bother with. No neighbors, no traffic, just concrete walls, a mattress on the floor, and a small window with rusted burglar bars. They didn't speak to her, didn't answer questions. They just kept her tied, fed her occasionally, and told her nothing. Her phone had been smashed, her handbag thrown into a river. As far as the world knew, she had vanished. And Ayola, he sat in this office at Iris Bank that afternoon, nodding through a board call, slipping chilled water, smiling faintly. Tenny lay on the cold floor, her wrists sore from the zip ties, her ankles stiff. The room smelled like wet cement and sweat. She couldn't see. They had blindfolded her from the start, but her ears had become sharper. She had learned to listen for everything, whispers, footsteps, even the way the rats in the wall moved at night. That afternoon, two of the men were arguing near the entrance. They thought she was asleep or unconscious, but Tenny was wide awake, her heart beating like a war drum, every muscle frozen with fear. "I'm tired of this wahala," one of them said, his voice loud and angry. "You dey hear from Oga at all? Every day, but nothing dey happen. Wetin be this?" Tenny's breath caught. "Ayola," another voice calmer but colder replied, "Relax." He said, "Make we wait. That woman dey bring heat." There was a pause, and then the first one snapped again. "Wait for waiting. Make we go chop rice, abeg." He should talk straight. If he wants the woman dead, he should just say so. Simple. Tenny didn't move, not a twitch. Her throat tightened, her mind raced. She wanted to scream, to try and beg, but her instinct told her to stay still. Another voice, a third man, quiet until now, spoke up, low and gravely. "Don't talk carelessly, bro. She fit hear you. She dey unconscious." The first one shouted, but the quiet man wasn't convinced. A moment later, footsteps approached. Denny braced herself, heartbeat in her ears. A hand roughly tugged at her blindfold, checking if it was still secure. Another hand prodded her side. She didn't flinch. She kept her breathing slow, shallow, pretending to be knocked out. They walked away. Tenny opened her eyes under the blindfold darkness, but her mind was now wide awake. Ayola. Ayola did this? The same man who hugged her at her husband's funeral? The same man Lanre trusted with everything? Now she knew the truth. And if she didn't find out away soon, she wouldn't live to tell anyone. The search was relentless. Police officers combed the streets of Ogudu, knocking on doors, asking questions. Tenny's mother-in-law sat by the window day and night, clutching Junior close, eyes red from crying. Every unanswered phone call deepened the ache in her chest. But inside, the shadows. Ayola's phone rang that night. He answered quietly, listening. "We need to deal with her," Ayola said, voice cold and steady. "No loose ends. Make sure she's eliminated. We can't afford any leaks." Two of Ayola's boys nodded grimly. They dragged Tenny from the dark room where she had barely regained consciousness. Her body was bruised, battered, barely more than skin and bone. In a small dingy room nearby, they threw her to the floor. One of the men raised his fist and struck her again, blow after blow. Her cries muffled by pain, fear and silence. "She's barely alive," one said, panting. "We will throw her in the shallow river by the swamp midnight. No one will find her there." At midnight, the two men carried her limp body through the swampy underbush. The moon hidden behind thick clouds. The river was quiet, the kind of silence that felt alive. As they neared the muddy bank, a sudden scream shattered the night. "Stop! What do you think you are doing?" a group of vigilantes, young men armed with sticks and cutlasses, burst from the bushes. The kidnappers panicked, their grip loosening. In the chaos, they threw Tenny's body onto the bank and ran, disappearing into the darkness before the vigilantes could catch them. The vigilante leader, a tall man with fierce eyes, knelt beside Tenny. Her breath was shallow, but she was alive. "We are taking her to the hospital," he said firmly. They bundled her onto a motorbike and sped through the empty streets to the nearest clinic. After Ayola's boys ran away from being caught by the vigilante group, they didn't wait around. They sent him a picture, dark, blurry, but clear enough to show her bruised face and closed eyes. "She's gone," the message read. Ayola stared at the photo, heart pounding but relieved. He told himself it was over, the problem erased. But at the hospital, Tenny's eyes fluttered open. She was alive. When the police were alerted by the vigilante group, officers rushed to her bedside, weak but determined. She recounted everything: the kidnapping, the threats, the voices, the beatings. She named Ayola. Within days, the police arrested Ayola at Aris Bank. The investigation uncovered a web of fraud, scams, and betrayal. Customer information sold to fraudsters, millions stolen, lives ruined. Ayola's polished suit was stripped away to reveal the man beneath, a criminal hiding in plain sight. His accomplices, Scarface, the silent man, and others were caught as well. Under pressure, they confessed to every crime: the kidnappings, the beatings, and the scams. In court, the judge's voice was firm and unyielding. "For attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. Let this serve as a warning to those who abuse the trust of their communities." Tenny, through scarred and healing, found a new strength. With her son at her side, she started to rebuild. The money lost could never be returned, but the truth had come to light. Moral of the story: trust is earned, not given, especially when it comes to your money. Always stay alert, ask questions, and protect yourself. Not everyone in a suit has your best interest at heart. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Let me know what you think or share your own experiences. Stay safe and stay smart. Please let me know where you're watching from. Thank you, and see you on the next one.